Hello everybody and welcome back to the Galactic Armory. My name is Aaron.
And I'm Jimmy.
And today we are making one of the most disgusting things we've ever made.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of terrible things.
This is gross.
This is worse than the handsome Squidward Captain Enoch.
Which is really saying a lot.
Yeah, definitely. So there was a season in Halo Infinite where they kind of dived into the idea of Flood-Infested Spartans.
Yeah, and they had these advertising pushes that showed this EVA-style flood helmet with it emerging from the cracked visor, and I just saw how disgusting this was, and really I couldn't help myself.
So gross. You're an ugly little helmet. Well, everybody, today we're going to teach you how we made this, and we'll show you the whole process, and we'll have some fun. So let's go ahead and get right into this helmet build tutorial. Was that you? Did
Power go out?
What's going on?
Let us begin.
Oh my god, he's got a gun!
Calm down,
I
dude!
will rip apart your casket. I shall crumple your coffin.
You're a beautiful helmet.
Pretty, I swear.
I think I know how to defuse this situation though. Let me see if I can find the button. Oh, there we go.
Hey, yeah. What a dumb joke.
Let's do this thing.
All right, Aaron. So this build actually brought us really outside of our wheelhouse. This was a culmination of a lot of new techniques, a lot of actually old techniques.
Yeah, gotta be like old school prop makers a bit.
Yeah.
Movie monster makers.
Yeah. I got really excited when I saw that we had this build coming up. Especially being able to work with new materials like foam clay, getting LEDs, visor bucks, and boil bucks.
Yeah, there's a lot in this helmet that is new.
A few moments later.
Don't tell me. Okay.
Nah, it's gonna be dead already. Well, I get it. Because it's a zombie. And yeah, a lot of these pieces came together to form this really unique and weird piece.
Yeah, gotta really do a lot of studying in biological matter, especially with how the flood looks. We got a lot of overlapping worm things.
Yeah, tentacles, like a big squid just erupted out and started trying to envelop the helmet.
Yeah.
And so yeah, a lot of this build took inspiration from John Carpenter's The Thing, 1982, which was one of my favorite films growing up, especially related to practical effects and prop making. We sorted out this build like any other helmet using Cause PLA B by Polymaker.
It's a bit more durable than it is sandable, but a little bit of extra for both. So thank you to Polymaker for sending us that filament.
Absolutely.
To this helmet.
This stuff really worked in getting this build out fast and getting onto the the fun stuff away from all that sanding sooner than anything else.
Yeah, we were able to start painting the helmet pretty quickly,
Yeah.
Luckily, the helmet is pretty simple. It's just a bunch of red and
like
some blacks.
A band of
kind of
red and black.
Based it off some of the concept art from that Halo Infected season, I believe. Was that what it was called?
Infection.
But getting the helmet to that kind of base state didn't take us too long. But now we got to kind of destroy it and make it terrible.
Yeah. So once we have the visor formed, we are able to then like cut out and shape where this flood form will be erupting out of the visor.
Yeah, and erupting is the good word for it. We really wanted to emphasize that something inside the helmet has burst out and kind of flowered around this helmet. Yeah, we were gagging like so many times during this build process.
It was so gross. But we wanted to also make sure that there was depth, so we didn't want to just have a visor and then just add the material on top. We did want to make it look like it was
some boils.
Flowering.
Added some boils to it that looked like they're ready to burst. So you'll notice some kind of breathing effect LEDs in there. We can talk about that later.
The idea was that when we had the visor shape, we used the cutout to actually get some excess visor that we had, some test pieces, so we could make a step in between the two visors and just tack that into place. That was a perfect base for us to start building up this material, and the material we were using was foam clay.
Right, so that was for the base of all this nastiness, right?
And that is just like a normal clay where it's moldable and you can really push it into shape and it will hold and smooth. And it's actually got quite a good adherence to it. So on these surfaces, it will grip really well. This is stuck. Yeah, I know. And it will stick to the helmet and stick to where you need it.
So Jamie, how exactly did we start making these boils?
Yeah, so the idea behind these is that I just went into Blender and then just created visor bucks except for boils. We used the same material that we use for all the visors that we're making right now. And at that point, all I needed to do was just sand it up, get it, a bit frosted, and then just applied some colors, some yellows, some pinks. Just make it look like it is a gross, erupting boil color.
Yuck.
Yeah.
But that was 0.06 PETG, which is vacuum formulated around the bucks. We use PETG because it's clear, transparent. We want the light to be able to shine through it well enough, but not too well where you can see the individual LEDs. So that's kind of where the clouding effect comes into play.
Yeah, so once we added like a little bit of sponged on colors, some pinks and stuff to make it look really biological and nasty, that's when we decided where to put it on the flood form to make it look as, as visceral and erupty as possible. Erupty. When we had the general areas marked out, that's when we just used like an auger drill bit and just cut out big circles out of it when this was dry. We wanted to make sure it was dry so it wasn't just tearing up the old material.
Right, but you drilled right into the 3D print and
straight through.
Kind of just worked around it. Then you just glue the boils in place.
Yeah, hot glued it in place. We didn't even need to be like utterly flush to the surface as long as it was tacked in. The reason being is because once that was in place, we were then able to just build up more foam clay around it. The foam clay will stick to its old foam clay, and we just make it look like it's actually erupting from the skin itself and it's cresting out.
Oh, it's so gross.
Very uncomfortable.
You want to talk about the arm a little bit?
Yeah, our little friend here.
Yeah.
So we noticed that in the art for the season, we saw that there was like tendrils coming off it and tentacles, and we couldn't miss the chance to do that. So we decided to get some armature wire and just some like door mesh screen to form a frame. Then just wrap that with tinfoil. That way we have this molded shape that is actually able to be moved and look around, which is even more gross when I think about it. And so when that was in place, we wanted to just cover that up, but we wanted to make sure that was still able to move just a little bit. So we used another type of foam clay that was actually used by decorators. So we're talking like florists and people like that.
Yeah, it's used to make a lot of flowers because it's a much softer clay.
And it's posable. And it'll stay bendable just enough. And so with the frame inside and this foldable clay, this guy can still move around and aim.
Yeah, I see he's got some fingers in there too. What are those grippers?
Those grippers, as you call them, are just pipe cleaners. That's as simple as that. And made sure that they were just a little bit textury, a little bit
they're
furry.
fuzzy.
Yeah, just to add extra gross factor to the whole thing. And with that in place, we just needed to start adding a little bit of detail. That means just adding probably the most gross part of it, the little warts. Growth.
The warts and the dimples and all things that make the flood just iconic.
It's like vents and like breathing holes and ridges. And
it's so gross, Jamie.
I'm sorry.
It's so gross, but that means it was a job well
It
done.
worked. We're finally able to mask this thing up, which was probably the most complicated masking process I've ever done.
The downside of organic matter is that it doesn't follow straight lines. It's not easy to tape up.
Yeah, no panel lining here. I had to just take my time, go around it, get into all of these little recesses. And what actually helped me quite a bit was using liquid latex and painting that into these recesses that was really hard for tape to get into and adhere really well. So just paint it in the liquid latex, try to get a little bit of an overlap onto your tape, so when you pull the tape up, it'll actually start to shift that liquid latex and make it a lot easier and save you a lot of time.
That's a real good idea.
So with a layer of black, just some primer black on it, that allowed me to then build up the colors that are synonymous with the flood.
Yeah, lots of beiges, tans, icky flesh tones.
Icky flesh tones, exactly. Yeah, building up that tan color and some bright highlights, and then getting into the recesses with some browns and pinks and Yeah, it got real bad. So I wanted to make sure that this thing didn't look clean. So I also got oil paints in there and really added both dirt and then shadow to the whole thing to make it look like it's almost writhing over
like
itself.
it's crawling over itself.
Yeah.
It's so gross. Gosh, I'm gonna keep saying it this whole video. I even saw you, little nasty man, painting veins on the. On
Yeah.
It,
I had to get that detail brush out and just get these like little pink, almost varicose veins that are just like spider webbing.
It's so awful.
It was nasty. At that point, I legitimately made myself recoil. One extra thing that we wanted to do is also really make sure that this looked like it erupted and broke out of the helmet. So you'll see here at the front that we've got these like fracture glass effects.
like the visor of this EVA helmet literally shattered as this thing erupted out of it.
It'd make it look like pressure has built up in there. It's come out. It's real nasty. So that was actually a really easy process. And this 0.6 PETG accepted this really well. That we just used a Dremel with an etching bit and just traced along fractured glass effects, and then when you add a little bit of oil paint to those recesses, it just instantly makes it pop. It adds shadow, it adds depth, it makes it look like it's barely holding on. And then to add one more yuck factor to this entire thing, I had to make it look slimy.
It's gotta be wet.
So we had on hand literally the most perfect top coat to use on this, which was a glazing top coat for pottery.
Yeah, it's like a triple glaze or something like
Triple thick glaze, high gloss, and boy did it make it look
It made it
slimy.
look real shiny, that's for sure. The light is reflecting off it in just the worst way.
And it really adds like almost like a skin texture to the whole thing underneath as well, because it like soaked in a little bit, so it didn't apply super smooth. Yeah, it worked out perfectly, which is unfortunate.
That's so gross.
Once all that tape is peeled off, we want to make sure that the helmet itself, the actual metallic part, the metal pieces, actually look uncared for.
You have to do some traditional like armor painting and weathering, right?
So just sponging on some blacks and silvers, specifically on like edges, bits that would just be hit and knocked by this new flood form that isn't exactly trying to look after its armor.
Probably banging into walls and hitting its head a bunch.
So then panel lining everything with oil and actually really going to town with it, because this thing is going to be building up dirt, debris, and then finishing that off with just some weathering pigments, which is just acrylic pigment, a little bit of water, and just sponged in, and that builds up more and more dirt and makes it look even more weathered and nasty.
Yeah, poor guy. This is like one of the UNSC's like worst nightmares.
Yeah,
right?
a Flood Spartan, I can only imagine how much damage that would do.
Well, Jamie, you gave me a very nasty helmet to work with, but we wanted to add LEDs underneath these boils to give the glowing effect that these boils were about ready to burst.
Yeah, it's almost like a breathing effect that it's like building up more.
Give it some life.
And
That at any moment you could just pop. It's so gross. But I gotta flex my electronics muscles a little bit.
It's been a while.
It has been a while. Back in another life, I was a systems developer. I was a programmer, so I gotta use some of that know-how again. But we used an Arduino Nano, a little microcontroller, to control a strip of LEDs. And so LEDs that come in a strip, if they're RGB, they have 3 connectors.
Right.
And so we could just wrap a single long strip of LEDs inside this helmet, but then you'd get a lot of bleed over like in this visor
Never
area.
considered that. Yeah.
So what we had to do was cut them up into little sections that just fit right inside the boils, because we only want as much light as we need. Otherwise, this area will glow and kind of ruin the effect of the boils.
That's a good, I never considered that.
So it took a lot of soldering. I haven't done this in a while, so if anyone knows any connectors or like easy fit connectors that can connect an LED strip, that'd be super helpful. But so long as you just keep those wires the same across the LED, you keep the direction of the LED strip the same, you should be all right. It took to a little bit of coding in the Arduino IDE. I used some libraries that kind of make coloring LEDs easy. So these are like addressable LEDs, so you can individually turn on each LED.
Right.
But that means you can also set the RGB value. So we can do a yellow. But then you can also adjust like the saturation, the hue to make it breathe. You could set time limits to increment like how fast it's breathing We could make it like
Yeah.
like
No,
if
please.
we wanted to, but this is like a slow, like
Yeah.
it's a live breath. But that all deals with a nice yellow, yellow-red kind of hue to it. We also wanted to have a little bit of fun. You know, after a hard day's work of infecting other forms, you want to maybe go out to the club, have a
When
drink.
you showed me this, I couldn't believe it.
Well,
but it makes so much sense.
There's 2 party modes, so this one's a little bit calmer, and then you got the like real the rave music. But yeah, you know, it all works off of a button on the inside. So it's got 4 states. It's got its off state.
Right.
It's glow, party 1 and party 2.
Party 1 and
And
party
you just
2.
kinda cycle between those, checking button states of if the button's been pressed. If it has, then change state.
Awesome.
And yeah. It was quite fun to get back into programming a little bit. So
You did a fantastic job. Like, absolutely perfect. Better than we can actually have imagined. It looks great.
yeah, and we'd love to do more complex builds like this in the future. So I'm working those muscles again.
To answer the question that's probably on everyone's mind, yes, you can still wear it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, because...
you're not gonna make me put that on, are you?
well, I mean, with my earrings and my man bun,
Oh, gross.
I think it suits you better.
Let's see if I can fit it in. Oh,
Is slimy in there?
it's like, yeah, I was crunching some foam, and so it sounds like my bones are shattering.
Well,
I can't actually see out this part pretty well.
yeah,
You
pretty
know,
50-50.
It's a
Yeah.
little bit foggy, but not too bad for being infected.
You hear that, folks? Not too bad.
Uh-oh. Okay.
My trap worked.
I gotta pull the ears out.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Okay. I'm like cursed with big ears.
We're gonna let you breathe for a second so your skin.
Well, while I recover from that, let's talk about some of the small things around the helmet, like some of the details you added. You added some of these like little frayed wires coming out of the ear accessory there.
As though it's like built up and it's like pulling it out with it.
We got like some eruption out of here. Like,
Yeah.
that just kind of seeped out. Got a little, maybe another little grabby hand.
Little baby tendril coming out.
forming out of the vent here. You added some computer mesh.
That's right.
To it, right?
Yeah, to make it look like it's taking like the rebreather system with it.
Yeah, really adds some depth to the armor. Makes it look like it's actual like layered, layered materials, and then like just little bumps and pimples around it. Ugh,
Yeah,
so
I got
gross.
gross with it. I wanted to flex my my monster movie muscles. But yeah, this was a incredible build. If I was going to do it again, I would get grosser. I would add some like teeth had like erupted out the side.
Ugh.
Yeah, like an eyelid or something. Some hair.
so
Yeah, I
vile.
get gross with it.
Well, I hope that we don't do another one of these for a long, long time. So you might have to do that on your own time.
Deal.
Overall, how'd you like the project, Jamie?
This, I have to say, has been my favorite project. I know I say that quite a lot, but this has knocked everything else out the park. In my
It
mind.
definitely gets the reaction we want, which is like, ew, I hate it, but I love it. But yeah, some of your best work, I think. Got to pay homage to some of the old prop makers and monster makers and all sort of that. So we love that sort of prop history aspect of things. Well, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I hope you feel inspired, maybe not to make something as terrible as this.
Do it.
But if you want to, I guess. Big thank you to Polymaker for supplying us with the COS PLA for this helmet and a bunch of other projects that we're working on. You can get the files for the base EVA helmet and Emil helmet on galacticarmory.net. It was on the Patreon a few months ago, but took us a good time to finish this helmet to the way we like it. But thank you all for watching, and we hope to see you again in the next video. We're terribly sorry we've made this. Please forgive us.
See you, folks.
How cute is that?